Okay, hey folks, this is David opposing the Matrix. How the heck are ya? And my camera's not working. Madonna mia. Alright, well you guys are going to have to suffer through this with me, okay? I have a very temperamental, stinking camera here. And every once in a while it just does not want to work. Okay, let's see. One sec. Let's see. Come on, please work. Okay, hold on a sec. That's not it. Here. Okay, I'm going to plug it back in, see if it goes back in. I really apologize for this, folks. This kind of stuff happens from time to time, you know. It just is not a good thing. Properties, deactivate, activate. Hey! Yes, they did it. Well, folks, hi, this is Dave from Post the Matrix. About ready to have a coronary, but yeah, this is me, and I'm glad to be online here with you. Whoa, man, talk about a panic. A few minutes ago, I'd lost the thing for the multi-feed, you know, to go to different venues, and I got that back, and then I got this. So, oh, man, I'll tell you. Now what I got to do is go in and get this document that I want here, and let's see. No, not that. Yeah, we go. Okay, there it is. Whoa. Okay, nice recovery. Okay, let's get rid of that. Okay. 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 The subject today is going to be originally I have a whole series that I want to do, and that's probably going to be the next few shows, but I really wasn't ready to do it today. So what I did is I figured, hey, you know what? Tesla. I've always liked Tesla. I've always kind of revered him. And let's do a show on him. So I got all this information. I did this all today too. It's amazing. Here. Okay. So I got this all together, and now we're ready to go. We're going to talk about Tesla today. We're going to look at his inventions and some of the stuff, some of the controversies about him. And we're also going to look at, we're going to pose a supposition. That's a good word. What would the world be like if Tesla's inventions had been used or had been recognized and accepted and everything else? Living in the reality in the matrix that we do, that it was not going to happen because he wanted to give everybody everything for free, and the world just does not operate like that, you know. And so he died poor and penniless, unfortunately, and not in very best health either. But nowadays he's been recognized. Elon Musk, when he made his company for his cars, decided to call it Tesla. I think in honor of Nikola Tesla. And and nowadays he's really getting a lot of recognition. Just about everywhere you go on the internet, if you type in Tesla, you'll get the car company, but you'll also get things about Nikola Tesla. I always thought it was Nikolai, by the way, but from what I understand, it was Nikola. I use my sort of expertise in languages has kind of burned into my brain that if a name has an A at the end of it, it's usually feminine, and I think that has to do with Latin. Latin is like that. There's feminine and there's masculine. If it was in Italy, it'd be Nicola or Nicole E, I think. And if it's male, it'd be Nicolo. Okay. Anyway. Okay, I'm making up some idle chit chat just so my blood pressure and nerves come down, and I'm ready to start getting into what we're going to talk about. if I didn't say it already, today is the 23rd of July, 2026. It's a Thursday, and it's 5:14 in the afternoon or the evening currently on the Pacific coast, on the left coast, the commie coast. And I'm not bragging about that. It's a shame it's that way, but that's the way it is, unfortunately, until things change. Now, there's a rumor that Oregon's going to change. It's going to flip red this next election. So, oh man, from that article's title to God's ears, I'll tell you, I can't wait. I really can't. I think people, even some liberals, have had the knowledge infused into them now that the Democrats weren't really running a tight ship, and that Trump is definitely for America, and we'll wait and see what happens in November. Okay, I might be coming back on you disappointed, telling you that Tina Kotek has. I'm sorry, that was an honest mistake. Has won the election again. Whatever. But okay, I'm sitting here armed. I've got my lemonade ready, and in case I get a dry throat. So I'm gonna do a little reading, some research that I have done about Tesla. Maybe most of this stuff you've heard before, but have you ever sat and really realized or thought about what the world would be like if Tesla is, let's say, it's free energy, were accepted and brought into reality, or all different things that he made, even his supposed time machine. So, okay. So without further ado, let me get started here, because I don't want to spend all night rambling. I can do that very easily. So tonight's show title is Nikola Tesla, Genius, Myths, and the Modern World. Genius, Myths, and the Modern World. So we're going to explore Nikola Tesla, the man whose imagination reached beyond the limits of his time. Really did. Some of what you will hear is firmly grounded in historic record. Other parts drift into speculation and legend. And I had written here, I will clearly separate to those as we go. And a lot of things that I'm going to be presenting here tonight, I see as fact, okay? The things that science sees as speculation, I see as fact. Just trust me, I've had a scientific mind all my life, and to be able to shut that down and accept some of the things that I read is hard for sometimes. It's difficult, but the alternative is reading bogus science. And I'm not going to agree with bogus science, no matter what the case. Okay, so just imagine standing in a dark world lit only by candles and gas lamps, okay? And your grandparents or great-grandparents probably lived this reality, okay? Then almost suddenly, entire cities grow with electric light. The light bulb top of your head, ding, like you have an idea. So all of a sudden, this becomes a reality. The shift didn't come from one man alone, but Tesla was one of the minds who made it possible. Now we're going to go into this whole thing between Tesla and Edison. Edison had a lot of good ideas, but he thought that DC or direct current was the way to go. And DC is a good thing, it powers a lot of our electronics and all that good stuff. But when it comes to the really heavy, where the rubber meets the road electric need, DC doesn't do it, but AC does. So, and AC stands for alternating current. Picture a line going straight across, and with DC, the line would just go straight across with that baseline, okay? And with AC, alternating current, you actually have something that's called a sine wave, okay? It starts out below the line, goes above the line, and then below the line about the same measure, and then on and on and on. And each one of those up and downs is called a hertz, okay? And you probably know that most of your electric appliances and stuff in your house, lights, the refrigerator, the refrigerator run on 120 volts, or 120 of those a second, okay? If you have a a stove or a electric stove or electric water heater or something like that, those run on 240 volts. Okay, watts are a whole different thing. And then there's amps. Okay, so if you want to look at the difference between volts and amps, volts are the flow going through the pipe. Amps are the pressure pressing against the walls of that pipe. Okay, that's why you can get hit with, Tesla got hit with what, 40, 50, 85,000 volts or something like that. We'll see about that in one of the videos or in our text too. And lived to tell about it. But if he would have had a high amperage there, it would have zapped him right away. It would have killed him right off the bat, So a lot of volts with very low amps is not too dangerous, but even a little bit of voltage with a ton of amps is not a good thing to mess around with. Okay. Well, all right. So, what about Tesla? Where was he born? Where did he come from? And all that good stuff. That's always interesting to know because it helps you understand the mind of the person. And, if they come from the old country, say Europe, Eastern Europe or whatever, especially if it was back in the 1800s to the early 1900s, they had a different mindset. They thought with practicality and there was no supposition for the most part. There were facts and there was facts and fantasy. That's basically all there was. And facts dealt with everyday life, and fantasy dealt with what you wanted to do after you dealt with all the facts during the day. I'm talking about a lot of movies or fantasy, unless they're biographical, and things like that. So. Anyway, he was born in 1856, right in the middle of the 19th century, in a little town called, I'm going to spell it, okay, because I don't know how to pronounce it, Smiljan, in what's now Croatia. I think back then it was Austria-Hungary. That whole area back there, depending on what wars somebody won or somebody lost, all changed. If you're into stamp collecting or coins, it'll drive you crazy because it might say like, let's take a coin from this part of where he came from. It would have been Austria-Hungary, right? So it would have either been an Austrian coin or a Hungarian coin. It had a date on it, but you go a few years later and it's just going to be Hungary or it's going to be Austria. Sometimes there were three countries that were blended together in Europe, depending on politics and who won or lost wars and stuff like that. So anyway, so it was Austria-Hungary, and now it's Croatia. His family was Serbian Orthodox. They were very Orthodox. They were Orthodox, okay? Just like any other Christian religion, Protestantism or you could use Roman Catholicism or and also Eastern Orthodox or Orthodox. There are different. There's your basis, okay, and then there's the people that are ultra Orthodox and those that go to church maybe 3 times a year, but they still consider themselves to be Orthodox. Same with Catholics and same with Protestants, okay. And those are people who practice religion. There's another group called we call ourselves the Remnant. And Messianics fall into this, and so do devout, devout, Bible-believing and Bible-doing believers in Yeshua, okay? But there are those of us who walk the walk and talk the talk, and there's those that are just talk the talk, and they're deficient in doing what they're supposed to do. So... and a good example is when Yeshua was talking to the churches in the first chapters of Revelation, and he said he talks about all the churches, about their good parts and their bad parts, and he has blessings for each one, and he also tells them, well, if you don't do this, this is going to happen. But anyway. The last church there is Laodicea, and if you take church periods and go from like 1 AD or no, that's not true. Let's say 100 AD, all the way to the present day, the churches fall into dispensations or different areas where where they had certain characteristics. So you have your new believers, your devout people who will die for Yeshua, who love him and everything else. And then as the years went by or passed, certain whatever denomination or whatever either got corrupt or got lukewarm, which is what Yeshua was talking about in when he was talking to Laodicea. He says, "You're lukewarm." He says, "Because you're neither hot or cold, I'm going to spit you out of my mouth." And they're given an ultimatum too. So, but out of all of them, they are probably the worst in the descriptions that Yeshua gives of the churches and the church periods and the church ages. Fortunately, toward the end of the age, along with Laodicea, there's the Philadelphia church, which is the church of brotherly love. That's what Philadelphia means. And it's a church that's devout and loves Yahweh Yahweh Yeshua with all their hearts, souls, mind, and strength. So there's two churches existing at this time. There's the remnant of believers, and then there's all the other people that are believers in name only, not in where it really counts, where the actions and the born again experience is concerned. Okay. So anyway, his family was Serbian Orthodox, and his father was a priest. So it shows you right there how devout they were. The family was. His mother, though not formally educated, was highly inventive in practical ways, creating tools and managing complex household systems. That's true of a lot of women these days. They balance too many things on their plates, but they get it done. So. My applause to women these days, especially mothers who balance all this stuff. And sure, they're tired at the end of the day and sore and everything else, but they feel fulfilled. And his mother was that way. And also, let's see, his father wanted him to be a priest. In other words, be the next in line in the family to become a priest. But he had different ideas. He wanted to be an engineer and work with his hands and his mind and stuff like that. And so at one point, Nikola got sick, pretty sick. But when he recovered, as he was recovering, his father promised him, "If you get better, I'll let you go to engineering school." And he got better, and thus father kept the promise, and he went to engineering school. And then we got our Nikola Tesla that we had. We've had, since he was born and even until this day. Okay, so a simple way to understand his beginnings is this. He grew up between two worlds, faith and function, imagination and discipline. Okay? And if you could balance those things, that's wonderful. It really is. If you could balance faith and function, which is really what we're supposed to do with faith, be doers of the word, not just hearers only. We're exhorted in the Bible to do that, and we are told to faith without works is dead. Okay, and work without faith is work without faith is death. They go both ways, and so if you're walking with Yeshua in the way that you're supposed to be, faith and born again experience, but also function where you're out doing what you're supposed to do. You're telling people about Yeshua. Now I'm not trying to make it sound like if you're not doing that these days, then you're less than a believer. But everybody has a function. Now my function, I've never been one to go out and with pamphlets in my hand saying repent for the end of the world is coming, or to hand out. I've handed out tracts before, and I didn't like doing that, but I did it anyway. So I've always been the kind that I try to live my life as an example, okay? And that's a large part of it. The world many times sees believers as hypocrites, Oh, yeah, well, you say this, but you do that, So what's the difference? You just have a title in front of your name, but there's no proof that there's anything behind it. And a lot of times that'll get thrown in a believer's face if they're acting that way. By the world, that is, and many times by other believers too. But imagination and discipline. Well, it's okay to imagine. Imagination is part of function. I see it anyway. And that being the case, well, let's just say that I'm trying to think of an example around here that I made. But usually if I need something, I think about it, something that's going to be useful, that is, or something I might want to make and be creative, which is really hard for me because I'm a very left brain person. I'm not creative at all. But so I sit there and I wonder, okay, well, I have this need right here. What am I going to do for? And I always pray before I ask these questions, and of myself and of the Lord, actually. And pretty soon an idea comes. Well, you've got this out in the shed. You can take this and then do this with it and that with it, and then you'll have what you need to make what you need complete. I can't think of anything right now in the way of needing stuff, but well, I needed a place to do this broadcast, right? And I realized we had a chicken shed, a very large chicken shed, and that was doing nothing at the time. The chickens had all been killed by predators, but and I wasn't going to go through that again. So I said, well, let me take this thing and clean it up really well. That was the first thing I had to do. And after it was all cleaned and acceptable to me, after it was kosher, I started building stuff in here, moving things around, and here we have it. The only thing that's missing is an air conditioner and a heater. But the way the electric here is hooked up, that would not be possible. So I have to be creative again. I have to burn candles, a lot of them in the wintertime, so it keeps it warm in here. And I have to have a fan. And when it gets really hot in here, I just go in the house and do the show there. So that's the imagination and the discipline. The discipline is doing it when you don't want to do it. There's been many times where I've thought about, okay, well, I got to do a radio show. What am I going to? Well, I can't think of anything. Lord help me. And then as time progresses, a few ideas come into my head, and I bounce all of those off of how I feel, what I want to do. And so that's a lot how a lot of these shows are done, how they come about. So anyway, so I knew that's a couple of examples, but I'm sure you could think of better ones than I did. So go for it. But so in his early life, what made Tesla different from other inventors? Okay. Well, the historical record shows that he had an extraordinary memory and the ability to visualize complex machines entirely in his mind before building them. That is hard to do. It's not impossible. I've done that myself. Not that I have a brain like Tesla had. That he had to have an IQ well over 200. But the extraordinary memory is the hard thing to do. I have to write things down. But the fact that he could just keep that all in his brain and then, put the pieces together in his brain and stuff, it is amazing. I have to do it on paper, but he was one of those remarkable individuals. I guess he had total recall when it came to memory. And he was able to actually go through the steps in his head of putting things together and putting them together the right way and then actually seeing the results. So God bless him. So in that vein, let's think of a chess player who can see 10 moves ahead, but instead of pieces, Tesla saw spinning magnetic fields and rotating motors. Okay? I think that's better anyway. I really don't like chess. I've tried to play it, and I really see no reason to. As a young student in Graz, G-R-A-Z, it's a town, I think it's in the Czech Republic. I have to look that up. He became fascinated with electricity. One story often told, likely grounded in truth, but somewhat embellished, is that he became obsessed with improving inefficient motors he saw in class. You're in engineering class. Of course, they're going to show you motors, right? Well, he saw them, and he saw 3 or 4 or 5 different ways to make them better. And that's amazing. So here's a deeper point. Most people accept a machine as it is. Tesla saw what it could become. All right. And it's funny because that's one way that Yahweh works with people, we see ourselves, as living in we're still in the flesh, so we're subject to sinning, and we're subject to failure because we're in this flesh. And if Yahweh saw that and judged us by that failure, I can't remember I think of the word right now, but if he saw us as that, then he would chuck us right away, But no, because of who he is and how he thinks and how he reacts, he sees us as what we will become, not what we could become, but what we will become. There's a scripture that says, "He that began a good work within you will continue till the day of Christ Jesus." Okay, so that means from the minute he came into your life, till the minute you asked him in, until the minute you take your last breath, he's working on you. And that's really comforting to know, because there's many times when I fail and I'm like, yeah, well, okay, that might be one of those 3 steps forward and 2 step back deals, but at least I'm still moving forward and Yahweh's in control, so it'll all work out. Okay, so imagine 2 people looking at a broken clock. Okay, this is an interesting allegory. One says it's broken. The other says, I can hear how it wants to tick. Tesla was the second person, okay? Yes, it was broken, but he wanted to find out what made it work and how he could fix it. I'm starting to see more parallels between he and I, and it's kind of scary, actually. And not that I'll ever amount to anything like Tesla was, but there are things that we're kind of parallel. So when Tesla came to America in 1884, he worked briefly for Thomas Edison. And there's speculation out there that Edison stole Tesla's work, his ideas, and I think he did to a degree, but that's hard to prove. Okay, but when you have somebody that's working for you and they tell you, hey, I can do this, and you say, oh well, you blow it off, but then a month or a year later you do the same thing. That's not kosher. It's stealing an idea. So the historical record shows no evidence of theft. Okay, outright theft. Their conflict was more about fundamentally different approaches. Like I said, Tesla was interested in alternating current because he knew what it could do, and Edison was interested in DC because he knows that, well, he invented DC actually, or invented it, but he took it and to its potential. But it wasn't as strong or powerful or transmittable as AC was or is. So again, Edison believed in direct current. I'm sorry, the way I typed this out. He believed in direct current for small localized systems. Okay, and that's the only way DC works, in a small way. It's, if you wanted to broadcast it over a large area, you'd have to have, like, every 2 miles, you'd have to have another station that would make it bring it back up to potential and then send it out. And another 2. It's just but locally, like with flashlights and anything that takes batteries that you use, or if there's something that you have to use a transformer for, you plug it into 120 and it brings it down to whatever voltage you need, 12 or 5 or whatever. It's good for that stuff, okay? So I know a man that he lives over in Eugene, or he did it when I knew him. Name was Frank Castanet. If you've been listening to his show for any length of time, Frank was a co-host for a short time, but he was here. And Frank was looking into something that I found totally interesting. Again, he has a mind like Tesla, okay, and he heard about how you could do something, and he did it, and he just wanted to improve on it. Well, anyway, this thing was called a Bedini wheel, okay? Now, if you're into all this stuff, you know exactly what I'm talking about. You can probably imagine it in your head, and I can too, because I actually saw the item. But it had a whole bunch of circuits on it, on this wheel, okay? And so what Frank did, this thing pulled energy from the atmosphere, okay? There's energy all around us, okay? And this thing actually pulled it and then sent it to some batteries that he had set up. So he would just go over there and just like real easy, like this, move the wheel. And man, that thing started cranking and cranking and cranking. And it got up to a certain RPM and stayed there. And it probably would have stayed there and doing that forever until it stopped. And he was charging car batteries with it. This was still an experimental phase. And if I'm not mistaken, I could have gotten this wrong, but he was actually, a battery is 12 volts, okay? And if you multiply it by 10, it's 120, right? And that's exactly what operates all of our appliances at home and everything, our lights and the whole 9 yards. And so his plan was to hook 12 batteries up, no, 10 batteries up, and get it to where they were all charged, and to somehow, and by now he's probably done it, to somehow convert it to alternating current, and that way he could maybe run his refrigerator. If he got a bigger Bedini wheel, he could probably run 2 or 3 appliances, or maybe even his whole house. I don't know. But smart man, very smart man, and I really respect him. Well, he married my wife and I, to perform the ceremony, and that was a real nice time. He was a good guy, or is a good guy. Okay. So Edison believed in direct current. Tesla believed in alternating current, or AC systems that could travel long distances efficiently. So here's a way to picture it, okay? Edison's model was like carrying buckets of water from a well to every house. Tesla's idea was like building a flowing river that could reach everyone at once. Remember, localized versus transmittable. They weren't just disagreeing, they were solving the same problem in different ways, okay? And to this day, we use both systems, right? I mentioned the DC and the AC, which this computer's, actually the computer has stepped down from 120 to a DC voltage. But everything that you use that's powered is one way or the other. So why did they clash? You might want to. They didn't have a liking for each other. I mean, they might have at the beginning. They clashed, or they clashed because they weren't just inventors. They were backed by business interests. Oh, there you go. And in the end, technology just doesn't win on ideas alone. It wins on practicality, scalability, and support. You ever watch that show called, was it Shark Tank or something like that? They invent something and it seems to work good and starts to take off, and they're selling it, but they want to sell it more and to a larger audience, and they go on Shark Tank and they tell these guys, oh, this is what it does and this is what it's been doing and this is the money I've been generating from it. And the whole idea is to get these guys to back you financially. I say guys, I mean people, because I think there's some women on there too. To back you financially so that you can not only keep going, but you can branch out a little more, maybe add some nuances to what you have and make an even better product and make more money. It's an interesting show to watch. It really is. But these guys were backed by multimillionaires. I don't think there were any billionaires back then, but these guys had tons of money. And the money dictated who got what and what was done. Edison was in the favor of many people. The person that supported him believed in direct current and laid out a lot of cash for Edison to work. And Tesla also received quite a bit of money too. And we'll see in the video. Oh, it was Westinghouse. That's right, Mr. Westinghouse. And he got funding from Westinghouse, but the thing is that Tesla wanted to make it free for all people. And people that are millionaires because they back people and they make money from it. And when Westinghouse, I guess, I think there was another person that was backing him too, not just Westinghouse. At the beginning, there was another person. I can't remember who it was. It was a biggie, but when that person realized that Tesla wanted to offer it for free, it was like, well, why am I helping you then? Because if you're going to give it to everybody, I'm not going to make any money from it, so find another funder. So that's basically the way the ball rolls, and I think if he would have just kept his mouth shut and just said, okay, followed orders from that rich guy. Oh man, I can't remember who it was, but was it Getty? No, anyway, you'll know the name when you hear it. So ultimately, Tesla partners with George Westinghouse, who believed in AC. He was a big believer in AC, and it means alternating current, not air conditioning. Although they probably both believed in that too. Together, they demonstrated its power, most famously lighting the 1893 Chicago World's Fair. These people these World's Fairs used to be pretty elaborate, and people would go to see what new inventions were around in the world and stuff like that. And so they walked into the World's Fair, and bam, all of a sudden you had all these light bulbs lit, and you could see your way, and you didn't have to worry, you didn't have to take a candle with you or anything like that. And then the whole place was lit up. It was quite elaborate, actually, for that time. So imagine walking in that fair at night, thousands of electric lights glowing steadily, bright, almost magical for that time. You think about it, you had people that were just using gas lamps and candles, and all of a sudden they have this thing where you just flick a switch on and you have light. It's more than just a new invention. It's kind of mystical. I don't know. You could probably think of a word that I could use better, but I can't right now. People just didn't see light when they went there. They saw the future. Okay, and that you can imagine how it really bolstered the Westinghouse Corporation because it could transmit power over long distances efficiently. That meant fewer power plants and broader access. Remember, with DC, you'd have to have all these power plants to renew and revive the voltage that was going out. So you might be one, and then a couple of miles later, another one. Well, if you go 1,000 miles, that's what. If you had like 2 per mile, and you went 1,000 miles, would that be 2,000? 2,000 revival stations or renewal stations for the DC, and that would have been ridiculous. Okay, so another analogy: direct current is like delivering food door to door, one house at a time. AC is like building, or alternating current is like building a highway system so food can travel quickly across entire regions. All right. So myth versus fact. Now, there's a myth that Tesla single-handedly electrified the world. The fact is that he was a key contributor, a very big key contributor. But it took many engineers, companies, and systems to work it all together. Okay. But the ideas came from him. All right. And without the ideas, without the vision, the people perish, the scripture says. And it's the same way here. If you never thought about this, then the lights never came on in 1893 at the World's Fair. So it's, he had quite a bit to do with it. I know that's trying to minimalize it here, but no, he had a lot to do with it. And without him, all those other people wouldn't have had any claim to fame. So Tesla created the Tesla coil and experimented with high-frequency electricity. He demonstrated early forms of radio control. He actually built a radio control boat, and at that fair, that World's Fair, he had it in a pond that was built there on that land. And he actually ran the boat remote controlly around there, and it just freaked people out. Some people thought it was amazing, and then it went all the way to the people that thought maybe it was witchcraft or something like that. Okay. What was he really trying to do when this happened? He wanted to transmit energy and information wirelessly across the globe. He wanted to make it so that whatever source created the AC, that it didn't go through wires. All these high tension wires we see all over the place, and if you stand under them, they hum, and if you live under them, you have medical problems. He wanted to, he probably never envisioned that, but he envisioned a way to transmit it wirelessly from all over the world, from different sources all over the world. And Tunguska happened. And we'll get into that later. So picture a shoreline where ships are lost in the fog. Most people would build better lighthouses. Tesla imagined removing the fog entirely. Okay, don't take care of the symptoms. Take care of the cause. If medicine were to do that these days, and there'd be more people walking around healthy. He didn't just want better wires. He wanted a world without them. Now, here's the important distinction, okay? Historical fact is that Tesla successfully demonstrated wireless energy over short distances. You could speculate, or people have speculated, that global wireless power systems have never been proven to work on a practical, large-scale basis. That doesn't make the idea foolish. It just means that it wasn't realized. It hasn't been tried. It hasn't been formulated yet. Yeah. But someday it will be, right? Okay, more myths and controversies concerning Tesla. How long have we been going here? 41 minutes. Time flies when you're having fun. Okay, did Tesla invent the death ray? He described a concept for defensive particle beam systems that he believed could prevent war. And I'm going to debate this, and we're going to look at a video that'll debate it too. But no working device was ever confirmed. Well, now the Tunguska event in 1908 was a massive explosion in Siberia. You've probably heard about it or read about it. Some theories claim Tesla caused it with an experiment, and I do believe that. What does mainstream science say? Okay, now here we're going to go with the people that said that the thing that happened 4 or 5 years ago was harmless and that it didn't hurt anybody, and people that say that we evolved from apes and over 4 billion years, even though it would take like 10 billion to happen if it could happen at all. People that just want to run your lives and ruin your lives in some cases. Okay, so mainstream science says it's most likely a cosmic airburst, an asteroid or a comet fragment exploding in the atmosphere. And those are all, good things to think about. Good things that it could have been. Those things could have created what happened in Tunguska. So why do these myths persist? Because when someone operates at the edge of understanding, people often fill the gaps with imagination. Okay. I think that's alluding to Tesla filling with imagination, but it's pretty well confirmed. I think through a lot of different scientific sources and historical sources that he did create the explosion in Tunguska in 1908. So here's an allegory. If you see lighting at a distance and don't understand it, you might call it magic. Tesla worked with forces that at the time looked very much like lightning or magic. So did he experiment with time travel? Okay, this is very interesting because, there's a lot of different people involved in this. There's an unverified story that says that Tesla was deeply interested in time travel and that he did invent a device that he said allowed him to view the past, present, and future at the same time. This experiment almost electrocuted him, as a matter of fact. I talked about that earlier. We're going to watch a video. We might as well watch it right now. We're going to watch concerning the aspect of inventions, and they will mention a man named Abimelech. Okay, I'm working into something else now here. So we're going to watch a video that talks about a lot of his inventions, okay? But it's going to mention an Abimelech, and it says that this was a Bible story. It is not a Bible story per se. Okay, there is an Abimelech in Scripture, and he was a Philistine, and he lived about the time of Isaac and Abraham, and he also he had a kingdom, of course, Philistia, and he caused Abraham and Isaac both caused a ruckus there when they went there. Their wives are so beautiful that they figured, hey, somebody's going to see my wife and they're going to off me and take my wife away, So both of them made up stories that their wives were their sisters. Now with Abraham, his wife was a half sister. They didn't share mothers, but they shared fathers. Okay, so he was technically not really lying, but what he was doing was wrong. Because what happened was Yahweh was very angry at this, and that the Assyrian king, or not Assyrian, the Philistinian king, actually took, let's see, Sarah into his house, and nothing happened. The scripture says nothing happened at that time. I mean, him laying hands on her or forcing her to do something she didn't want to do. But a plague broke out, and all kinds of havoc broke out, and Abimelech figured out. Well, the Lord Yahweh talked with him and said, you've really blown it, man. You took this guy's wife and brought her into your house, and your intentions are probably to have coitus with her and make her your wife and everything else, but she's married already. And so Abimelech he was pissed but scared at the same time. And he went to Abraham and said, you know what, you can dwell where you want to here, but basically don't ever do that again. And I will put the word out that if any man touches your wife or even you, that they will be put to death. And so that's settled. And then Isaac did the same thing with Rebekah, and the king of Philistines was wroth with him too, but it all worked out. But, why did I go into that? Okay, yeah, Abimelech. Yeah, Abimelech was the king of the Philistines during the time of Abraham, and there's another. If you're into the not the Pseudepigrapha, but the Apocrypha, the apocryphal books that are in every Catholic Bible, and also in the Ethiopian Bible, which I have a copy of. You can get it online. It's called the Sefer, and it's got all the apocryphal books, and it's got the Pseudepigrapha too, and books like Jubilees, Jasher, and First Enoch. And man, I'm telling you, what a good book it is. Of course, it's the scriptures, but having all those extra books just kind of fills in a lot of gaps, let's put it that way. And it talks about an Abimelech who was king over Israel at one time, and so that was basically the Abimelech that the video is going to talk about. And but that story is not in the 66 books of the Bible. It's in the Apocrypha in Fourth Baruch. That's it, Fourth Baruch. Okay. Let's see. Okay, so let me go. Let's see. Okay, so I said the experiment almost electrocuted him, talking about Tesla. And I'm going into this video we're going to watch concerning the aspect of his inventions. They will mention a man named Abimelech who allegedly traveled through time or could see past, present, and future. In fact, this is not found in a classic Bible, but in the apocryphal book called Fourth Baruch. Here's a little tidbit about that Abimelech. Okay, and I looked it up because I don't want to present information to you guys that's wrong, because then somebody's going to go and get a Bible out and read about Abimelech and say there's no mention of any kind of time traveler or long sleep or whatever. So, okay, there is a non-canonical story that is often described that way, but it's not in a standard Bible. In 4 Baruch, also called Paralepomenia of Jeremiah, Abimelech falls asleep for 66 years and wakes up after the exile, which some of the writers loosely call time travel. Okay. A few important clarifications. This is an apocryphal pseudepigraphical text, not part of the Jewish or most Christian Bible canons. And the story is about miraculous sleep rather than time travel in most modern science fiction sense. The biblical Abimelech found in Genesis is a different character, entirely a king of Gerar, not the one in 4 Baruch. So the short answer is not in the Bible proper, but in a related ancient text, there's a story that can be interpreted as a time dilation like miraculous sleep. Okay, so that answers that, okay? Okay, so regarding his life, Tesla never married and had no children. Why is that? We can't be for sure, but his own writings suggest that he believed relationships might interfere with his work. Think of someone trying to hold water in their hands while also building a machine. He chose the machine. He lived simply, often in hotels, and focused intensely on ideas. He lived in a hotel in New York for, I think, 10 years to the end of his life. Okay, there's a quiet cost to that kind of life, great focus, but often great isolation. That's true. Okay, so what about beliefs and philosophy? Was Tesla religious? You have to ask that because his father was an Orthodox priest, right? So he was raised in a Serbian Orthodox tradition, but as an adult, his views became more individual and philosophical. He spoke about a higher order in nature, something beyond human understanding, but also deeply believed in science as a way to explore that order. True science, you can do that, okay? But with fake science like we see today, it can't be done. You could say that he stood at the crossroads between science and spirituality. Here's a short allegory regarding that. Imagine standing in a vast library where half the books are labeled science and the other half mystery. Tesla didn't choose one side. He walked between the shelves, both sides. Nikola Tesla helped shape the electrical world we live in today. Some of his work is firmly grounded in history. Some of the stories about him are speculations built over time. Understanding the differences doesn't diminish him, it sharpens the picture. I might as well finish reading, now we can look at the videos, okay? So here's the final question and an answer to that question. What should inspire us more, the inventions themselves or the imagination behind them? The answer is both. Because inventions change the world we live in, but imagination changes what we believe is possible. It's exactly what I said before. So let's, real quick, look at what the world would be like if Tesla's visions and his inventions had actually been realized, okay? First, wireless power actually works at scale, not magic, free energy, but a real global system. You get a few giant transmission corridors in some regions and more wireless hubs. Cities might be designed around a broadcast and receiver infrastructure, kind of like cell towers, but for energy. The downside is interference risks, conversation losses, and safety zones. The upside is faster electrification of remote areas and mobile infrastructure that can be powered without heavy cabling. Now, if they could do something to get rid of those grotesque high-tension lines that are going all over the place. Nothing worse than being in a beautiful part of Oregon and then seeing them ugly towers. And then they have to cut the trees in a path so that they can get to these towers. Oh, man, it's nasty. Next, radio standardization happens earlier if his inventions were realized when they should have been. If Tesla's tuning system approach became dominant, you might see less fragmenting early radio development with more compatibility across borders. This could accelerate broadcast media, early wireless data concepts, and even something like proto-internet mentality, where people expect global connectivity as a public utility. In other words, we could have had the internet way before we did. Then geopolitics shifts. Nations would compete to host major power broadcasters and communication nodes. Control of spectrum and energy would be strategic, like shipping lanes or oil routes in our lifetime. Finally, everyday life changes. Portable receivers become as important as batteries are now. Rural clinics, schools, and disaster zones could spin up power and communications with fewer physical links, which is a big humanitarian win. But reliability would depend on the centralized infrastructure, so outages or conflicts around those hubs could be a big vulnerability. But if that happened all 50 or 60 years ago, or even longer, they would have had the bugs worked out by now, don't you think? So what about the effects on medicine and such? Let's see. In a Tesla-leading world, medicine changes, less because it changes less because of miracle beams and more because access and infrastructure get reshaped. If you're looking at this, what is it? I can't remember the name of it right now. Uh, it's a movement that goes into all this esoteric stuff. Um, I can't believe I can't remember this right now. But one of the things that they tout is miracle beds, okay, or medicine beds where you sit in it and they use frequencies and stuff to heal you. And if that's true, then that's awesome. But again, a lot of the things that group touts are far from credible, very far. Okay, let's see. First, remote care jumps ahead. Clinics can pull reliable power and communications with heavy grid build out. Rural and underserved areas get refrigeration for refrigeration for vaccines. Sterilization, lights for surgery, and telemedicine earlier and more consistently than alone saves lives. That alone saves lives. Next, diagnostics and training improve. Early broadcast networks mean medical education, and public health guidance travel faster. Think radio health networks, distant learning for clinicians, and faster dissemination of outbreak information. Then medical devices get more mobile. If power delivery is flexible, field hospitals and diagnostic units can be deployed quickly with fewer logistical bottlenecks. One big caveat is centralized broadcast-style infrastructure means medicine can become dependent on those networks. If they're disrupted, remote care is hit first. So resilience and local backup power would still be crucial. Of course, with anything it would be crucial. Because if you don't have the electricity, you don't have nothing. So the net effect, more equitable access and faster knowledge flow with new dependencies on shared infrastructure. What about military use of his technology? Especially the kill rate? My goodness. Anyway, first, communication dominance. If long-range wireless networks are the backbone, then jamming, spoofing, and securing those signals become essential military missions. You'd see an arms race around resilient receivers, encryptions, and anti-jam systems. Next, energy rejection. If wireless power transmitters can support remote operations, bases and field units could run with fewer fuel convoys. That's a logistical advantage, but also a vulnerability if the transmitters are attacked. Then, infrastructure targeting. Major broadcast and power hubs become high-priority targets like airfields and satellites today. So defense strategies would focus on redundancy, hardening, and rapid rebuild capability. Finally, psychological and electronic warfare would expand, controlling what people hear when devices turn on or which regions get power. It becomes a strategic lever. So overall, it's not cleaner warfare, just different. Less about fuel lines and more about signal control, infrastructure resilience, and information dominance. Okay, now with everything that man invents, he abuses it. Okay, from fire to atomic energy, the whole 9 yards. Mankind gets his hand on it, and away goes sanity down the drain. Anyway, so the abuses of this technology. Here are the big downsides. First, control of standards becomes control of access. If a government or alliance dominates the broadcast power and communication standards, they can exclude regions or groups or throttle service as punishment. Second, surveillance gets supercharged. A unified wireless infrastructure could double as a monitoring network for communications and even device usage. Third, dependency risk goes up. If remote medicine, power, and communications all rely on centralized broadcast, then sabotage, censorship, or outages hit everyone at once. So in this timeline, the fight for freedom shifts. It's less about access to fuel and more about governance, transparency, and decentralization of critical infrastructure. The tech uplift, sorry, the tech could uplift humanity, but it would still need strong safeguards, competition, and watchdogs to prevent abuse. Now, what about religion? How would this affect religion? Okay, this is interesting because it would affect you and me. That's a fascinating angle when you think about it. In Tesla's leading world, religion would probably be shaped by communication reach and by who controls the channels. I keep thinking of televangelists and different shows on online, and also how our pastor he streams the service on Sunday morning. So if you can't get there, you can watch it, which is really convenient. Okay, let's see. In Tesla's leading world, religion will probably be shaped by communication reach and by who controls the channels. On the positive side, global broadcast access could let religions share teachings widely, support dispersed communities, and coordinate charity and disaster relief faster. It could also foster interfaith dialogue because people hear each other more directly instead of through slow filtered channels. On a negative side, centralized control of airwaves could enable religious propaganda or suppression, depending on who holds the power. Minority faiths might be excluded if licensing or standards are biased, and constant communication could amplify extreme voices or fuel culture wars on a larger scale. So the big shift is reach. Faith communities could grow and support people more effectively, but at the same networks could also be used to silence, manipulate, or polarize. It would raise the stakes on media fairness and on protecting pluralism. Okay, so there we have it, folks. And there's probably a lot more that we could have gone into, but time keeps us from doing it. I've already been on an hour. But there are pros and cons to what would happen if Tesla's technology could have been used more readily when it first came out. And by now it would be totally, all the bugs and kinks would be worked out of it for sure. But also it could, like it said, could affect things in a negative way, in a military sense, also where religion's concerned, and just about every area you could think of, there's got to be a downside. So what I'd like to do now, folks, if it's okay with you, I'm going to just move this out of the way. I've got some videos to watch. They're not very long. Okay, there's 3 of them. The first one is the untold story of Tesla and his inventions. And then the second one is Tesla's forgotten inventions. And the third one is Tesla's time travel. That's why I saved that one for last. Okay. All right, so let's watch the untold story of Tesla. Here we go.
Tesla and the Tunguska Mystery. On June 30th, 1908, a blinding fireball streaked across the Siberian sky, followed by an earth-shaking explosion that flattened over 800 square miles of forest. The Tunguska event remains one of the greatest mysteries of the modern era. But what if it wasn't a meteor or comet, as scientists suggest? What if the true cause lay in a New York laboratory guided by the hand of Nikola Tesla? In the months leading up to the explosion, Tesla was immersed in experiments with his most ambitious idea yet: wireless energy transmission. At his Wardenclyffe Tower, Tesla believed he could send vast amounts of power across the globe without wires, drawing energy from the Earth itself. He envisioned lighting cities, powering ships, and erasing the limits of human progress. But Tesla's experiments went beyond mere electricity. His calculations suggested the possibility of directing energy to a single point anywhere on the planet. He called it the power of remote transmission. Tesla theorized he could beam concentrated energy to regions in need, or, as some speculated, he could weaponize it. In early June 1908, Tesla reportedly tested this technology. According to his diary, he aimed the Wardenclyffe Tower toward the Arctic, a remote and uninhabited region he believed would minimize risk. He wanted to prove his theory by generating a dramatic display of energy. On the morning of June 30th,
Let me break in here for a second, folks. Oh no, okay, I gotta find where you cut off there. But anyway, the plan was there was an Admiral Perry that was going to the North Pole. He was gonna find a way to the North Pole and explore up there, and he made a deal with Tesla. Tesla said, "While you're up there, I'm going to send something up there that would, and I want you to tell me what happens." And so he was off by like, what was it say, 11,000 kilometers or something like that, because it was supposed to go to the North Pole right above Canada there, but instead it went all the way over to Siberia, and it was quite destructive. So let me see if I can start this all over again, okay?
Tesla and the Tunguska.
Okay, let's see. Go here.
With his most ambitious idea
All right, how come?
yet, wireless energy transmission. At his Wardenclyffe Tower, Tesla believed he could send vast amounts of power across the globe without wires, drawing energy from the Earth itself. He envisioned lighting cities, powering ships, and erasing the limits of human progress. But Tesla's experiments went beyond mere electricity. His calculations suggested the possibility of directing energy to a single point anywhere on the planet. He called it the power of remote transmission. Tesla theorized he could beam concentrated energy to regions in need, or, as some speculated, he could weaponize it. In early June 1908, Tesla reportedly tested this technology. According to his diary, he aimed the Wardenclyffe Tower toward the Arctic, a remote and uninhabited region he believed would minimize risk. He wanted to prove his theory by generating a dramatic display of energy. On the morning of June 30th, 1908, the explosion over Tunguska occurred. Witnesses described a blinding light and a deafening boom. The shockwave circled the globe, registering on seismographs thousands of miles away. Tesla, upon hearing the news, was uncharacteristically quiet. His assistants later noted he became increasingly withdrawn, as if haunted by something only he understood. Was the Tunguska event Tesla's unintended consequence? He never admitted to it, but his cryptic statements left room for speculation. "The Earth," he once said, "is an immense reservoir of energy. I have only tapped a fraction of its potential." The mystery deepened when Tesla abandoned further work on large-scale wireless energy projects shortly after the incident. Did he fear the power he had unleashed? Or was he silenced by powerful forces who saw the potential for a weapon unlike any the world had ever seen? To this day, no definitive cause for the Tunguska explosion has been confirmed. Scientists point to natural phenomena, but Tesla's shadow looms large. Was it merely coincidence that the explosion coincided with his experiments? Or was it a demonstration of his genius, and a reminder of the dangers of wielding forces beyond comprehension? The truth remains as elusive as the man himself, leaving the Tunguska event a chilling testament to Tesla's enigmatic legacy.
Okay, 2 plus 2 equals 4, right? 4 plus 4 equals 8, 8 and 8 is 16. All established, but because you can figure it out, right? You've been taught that, and it's true. It works out. Okay, so you have a guy that's got this beam that he wants to send up. Tells a friend that's going to the North Pole, okay, let me know what the effects were when you get back. So if he sends out the beam, which he did, it didn't show up in the North Pole because Perry never said anything about it showing up there. But a forest got destroyed in Russia, Siberia. 2 plus 2 is 4. Okay? He sent it out somewhere, and it had to come back somewhere. What goes up must come down, right? And if you bounce it off the ionosphere, that's even more proof. But anyway, so science, oh no, it had to be a meteor or an asteroid or something like that. Well, I don't know. It seemed to me, usually when a meteor or an asteroid's coming, you can see it coming. You see the trail coming. It usually does sonic booms in the air. And usually, most times, it'll just go ahead and skip through the atmosphere and leave. Other times it enters the atmosphere and it does crash to the ground if it's big enough. Otherwise, it's consumed by the atmosphere and the heat. But the fact that this guy Tesla sent a beam out and knows it went out and didn't get a report from Perry from about the North Pole, and from the looks of it, and you read about this thing was amazing. It lit up the sky like the sun, and it, the sound of it coming in was amazing, and then when it hit, it destroyed all that forest and everything. My goodness, it's, this wasn't, I'm sorry, it wasn't an asteroid or a meteor. It usually those things are seen for hundreds of miles when they come in, and nothing was reported from anywhere else except for the area of Tunguska. So anyway, I rest my case, and let's go ahead and go to the next video, shall we?
Imagine a world where electricity is free, cars run without fuel, and communication travels instantly across the globe. This wasn't science fiction. This was the vision of one man, Nikola Tesla. But what if I told you that many of Tesla's groundbreaking inventions were deliberately ignored, locked away, or simply forgotten? Today, we uncover the inventions that could have completely changed our world. If only they had been allowed to exist. Tesla's dream of free energy. Nikola Tesla believed that energy should be limitless and free for all humanity. This belief was the driving force behind his most ambitious project, the Wardenclyffe Tower. Construction on the massive 187-foot tower began in Long Island, New York, in 1901. It was designed to be the first station in a world wireless system, capable of transmitting electricity through the air and the earth itself, making it available to anyone on the planet. This incredible invention could have ended our reliance on coal, oil, and gas, offering a clean, inexhaustible source of power to the entire globe. But the project was funded by the powerful financier J.P. Morgan, who famously grew skeptical of the project. The popular legend says that when Morgan realized there was no way to put a meter on free energy, he pulled his support. With its funding cut, the magnificent tower was eventually demolished in 1917, and the dream of free, wireless power vanished with it. Wireless power transmission. Long before the Wardenclyffe Tower, Tesla had already proven that wireless energy was possible. In 1899, he set up an experimental station in Colorado Springs to conduct large-scale experiments on transmitting power without wires. In his high-altitude lab, he built the largest Tesla coil ever made and generated spectacular man-made lightning bolts. More importantly, he succeeded in lighting vacuum tubes and incandescent light bulbs planted in the ground from a distance. Without any physical connection, he proved that the Earth itself could be used as a massive electrical conductor. Imagine a world without the endless web of power grids and tangled wires, just clean, abundant energy transmitted silently through the air. Today, our modern wireless charging technology is only just scratching the surface of what Tesla demonstrated was possible over a century ago, the earthquake machine. In the 1890s, Tesla developed a small, deceptively simple mechanical oscillator. He understood that every object has a natural resonant frequency, and by applying perfectly timed vibrations, he could create powerful, uncontrolled shaking. This device became famously known as Tesla's earthquake machine. The most well-known story takes place at his New York laboratory. As the legend goes, Tesla attached the small device to a steel beam in his building and began to tune the frequency. Soon, the entire building began to tremble and shake violently, creating a panic on the street below as people thought an earthquake was hitting Manhattan. Just before police could storm his lab, Tesla reportedly grabbed a sledgehammer and destroyed the device, ending the experiment instantly. He later admitted that the device was too dangerous to exist. While the story may be exaggerated, it highlights the terrifying potential of resonance of force that could be used for construction or for warfare. Wireless communication and the internet before its time.
This is bizarre.
While the Wardenclyffe Tower was intended for wireless power, it was also designed as a global hub for wireless communication. In the year 1900, Tesla essentially described the modern internet in Visioned, a world wireless system that could transmit messages, voice, stock, quotes, and even images instantly across the globe. He spoke of a future where an inexpensive device, no bigger than a watch, could allow anyone to receive information from anywhere on sea or land. Had his system been supported and fully realized, it could have brought about the age of global, instantaneous communication and perhaps even the internet itself, a full 50 years earlier than it actually arrived. The flying machine. Tesla also dreamed of taking to the skies. He sketched out designs and, in 1928, received his final patent for a revolutionary type of aircraft. It was a vertical takeoff and landing VTOL machine that he called a helicopter plane. The design resembled what we might now call a drone or a modern VTOL jet. His concept involved a propeller and wing system that would lift the craft vertically like a helicopter, then tilt 90 degrees to fly horizontally like an airplane. He even imagined powering it electrically from a distance. Imagine if the world had seen personal flying vehicles a century ago. While his machine was never built due to a lack of funding, Tesla firmly believed it was the future of transportation, the death ray. In the 1930s, as the world teetered on the brink of another war, Tesla claimed to have invented a powerful directed energy weapon that could end all conflict. The press sensationalized it as a death ray, but Tesla called it teleforce. He described it as a particle beam weapon capable of shooting concentrated streams of particles at incredible speeds. Tesla claimed the beam was powerful enough to destroy a fleet of 10,000 airplanes from hundreds of miles away. His goal was not conquest, but a perfect defense. He believed that if every country had this weapon, it would create an impenetrable wall of energy, making invasion impossible, war futile. Governments dismissed his idea as fantastical, but after his death, many of his notes and papers were seized by the U.S. government. Some historians believe that modern laser and microwave weapons can trace their conceptual origins back to Tesla's lost work, Remote Control. In 1898, at a packed exhibition in Madison Square Garden, Nikola Tesla gave the world one of its first and most stunning demonstrations of automation. In the middle of an indoor pond, a small iron-hulled boat moved as if by magic, starting, stopping, turning, and flashing its lights, all on command. The audience was bewildered, shouting out suggestions of telepathy or even witchcraft. What they were actually seeing was the birth of remote control. Tesla stood at the edge of the pond holding a small box with levers, commanding the boat using radio waves. He called his invention a teleautomaton, and it was the world's first ever remote-controlled vehicle. Today, remote control technology is in everything from our TVs and drones to military robots. But it was Tesla who invented and demonstrated the principle first: electric cars. In 1931, long before the modern era of electric vehicles, a story circulated that Tesla had already perfected one. In 1931, Tesla allegedly modified a Pirsaro luxury car, removing its gasoline engine and replacing it with a unique electric motor. According to eyewitness reports, the car was powered by a mysterious black box that received energy from the air, requiring no gasoline or charging. It was said to have reached speeds of up to 90 miles per hour during a week-long test. After the demonstration, the device and the technology were never seen again. Some believe the story is a fabrication, while others are convinced the technology was suppressed by powerful oil and automotive industries that felt threatened by the prospect of a car that ran on free energy. Nikola Tesla died alone in 1943, in a small New York hotel room, his papers seized by the government. He gave us alternating current, radio, and countless other breakthroughs. Yet his greatest ideas, free energy, wireless power, flying machines, even early visions of the internet, were left to gather dust. What if we had listened to Tesla? What if we had supported his vision instead of burying it? Maybe today we'd live in a world without pollution, without energy wars, and without limits. Nikola Tesla wasn't just an inventor. He was a man ahead of his time. And maybe still ahead of ours.
Okay, folks, I hope you could hear the audio in that. For some reason, it just cut out. I couldn't hear it, but every indication that I could see here shows that it was going. So I don't know. I had my cat jumped up on my lap, and when I went, he's a gigantic cat. When I went to put him down, something happened. I don't know if I hit something or whatever, but it definitely affected something. So I'll tell you what, there's one more video. I'm going to see if there's any sound to it, and we'll go from there. Okay, and let's try it. It's self-explanatory.
Time travel has captivated the minds of people for centuries. The idea of stepping into a time machine and traveling to the future or the past is a fantasy that has been imagined by many. But what if I told you that time travel is not just limited to science fiction? That one of the greatest minds of all time, Nikola Tesla, was reportedly obsessed with time travel and worked on creating a machine to make it a reality.
Real quick, folks, I can't hear if there's sound on this video, but again, it's showing up on everything that I can see is moving. So I'm going to go ahead and let it play. And if it is a problem, then there's subtitles or captions in the video. So let's rock on here.
Tesla, known for his contributions to the design of the modern electrical supply system and the discovery of alternating current, was said to have made a shocking discovery in 1895 that time and space could be influenced by magnetic fields. Join me as we delve into the mysterious world of time travel and explore Tesla's alleged experiments on this intriguing subject. Let us now travel back in time, to a world of myths and legends where time travel has always been a fascination. We start with the Bible, where the story of Abimelech serves as an early example of time travel in literature. In the story, Abimelech travels back in time to save his people from destruction, with the help of God. This tale highlights the idea of time travel as a means of correcting mistakes and changing the course of history. In Indian mythology, King Revata of the Mahabharata also traveled back in time, to meet the gods and secure a place for himself in heaven. This story underscores the idea of time travel as a means of personal growth and spiritual advancement. Moving across the world to Japan, we find the legend of Urashima Taro, a fisherman who is transported to a magical underwater kingdom and granted the gift of immortality. But upon his return to the mortal world, he discovers that centuries have passed, a tale that highlights the idea of time travel as a means of experiencing the passage of time differently. From the stories of Abimelech, King Revata, and Urashima Taro, we see that time travel has been a subject of fascination and speculation for centuries, inspiring tales of adventure, mystery, and wonder. Tesla's alleged time travel experiments might seem like science fiction, but the idea of time travel has been a subject of scientific study for over a century. One of the earliest theories of time travel is Einstein's theory of relativity. Einstein's theory states that time and space are not absolute, but are instead influenced by the presence of mass and energy. This led to the idea that time travel could be possible. In recent years, scientists have made exciting progress in the study of time travel. For example, researchers at the University of Queensland were able to simulate time-traveling photons, which could be a key step toward understanding the feasibility of time travel. But with all the possibilities of time travel comes a potential paradox, the grandfather paradox. This paradox states that if a time traveler were to go back in time and prevent their own birth, they would cease to exist and therefore wouldn't have been able to travel back in time in the first place. These paradoxes highlight the complex and intriguing nature of time travel and its impact on the fabric of space-time. Tesla's discovery of magnetic fields influencing time and space was a turning point in his career. His interest in the topic of time travel was sparked and he began conducting various experiments to explore its possibilities. It is said that Tesla's experiments led to the infamous Philadelphia experiment. According to conspiracy theorists, the U.S. Navy used Tesla's ideas to conduct a secret time-traveling experiment during World War II. The experiment was supposed to make a Navy ship, the USS Eldridge, invisible to the radar. However, it is claimed that the experiment went wrong and the ship disappeared and reappeared in a different location, causing crew members to suffer from hallucinations and strange physical effects. Although there is no concrete evidence to support the claims of the Philadelphia experiment, Tesla's alleged experiments have contributed to the mythology and fascination surrounding the topic of time travel. In some accounts, it is said that during one of Tesla's experiments, he was electrocuted and transported to another time and place. According to these accounts, Tesla claimed to have seen the past, present, and future, all at the same time. Despite the lack of evidence, Tesla's discovery and experiments in the field of time travel continue to be a topic of interest and speculation. His work has inspired further research and investigation into this mysterious and fascinating subject. We may never know if Tesla truly made the shocking discovery he claimed, but one thing is certain: the mystery surrounding time travel continues to captivate and inspire us. We encourage our viewers to share their thoughts and opinions on this topic. Don't forget to subscribe to our channel for more fascinating.
Okay, folks. Well, that takes care of that. Again, I hope you heard it. If not, there were words at the bottom you could read that were echoing what the guy was saying. I, for the life of me, don't know what happened. Anyway, kind of speculative, huh, about Trump, and I don't know. I always wondered why he was like 7 or 8 steps ahead of those who were trying to mess with him. It's either he's got a direct line to Yahweh, or he got to see it all because he's been there before. So only time will tell. And really, it's not that interesting, or not that it doesn't matter the way things are going. But there's an interesting speculation that John Trump kept that information and maybe built a time machine, and that his nephew Donald uses to go into the future. The Nazis had something during World War II. They called it Die Glocke, or the bell. And a lot of these things, when you examine them, they mention that that the effects that it creates happens because of 2 things that are moving in opposite directions. In Die Glocke, supposedly it was 2 special mercury that they made, but there were 2 chambers, and one of them went clockwise, and the other one went counterclockwise, to use a vernacular that we can understand. And at very high speeds, and it caused a gravitational field to develop, and it also caused the thing to disappear. Whether it just disappeared and it was still there, or it disappeared. But what's interesting I think it was 1963 in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania. Something crashed, came into the atmosphere and crashed to the ground. And when the people went to look for it, it was bell-shaped, and it had symbols on it, kind of like runic symbols. That was on Die Glocke. And then in 2010, I think, the Stevensville lights occurred, and Leroy Gayton, who was the constable in that area down there, I don't think it was necessarily in Stevensville, but an area around there, said he saw 2 large orbs in the sky, and each one had a bell inside of it. Well, it was always rumored that there were 3 Die Glocke, and so the one that landed, first of all, there was the guy that was in charge of it in the general in Germany, Hans Kammler. He I don't know if he's a colonel or a general, I forget, but anyway, it's rumored that he and 2 scientists all got into these 3 Die Glocke, and they all disappeared. And that's why they weren't there when anybody got there. The Soviets or the Americans got in there to look. And so when the one crashed to Earth in 1963 in Kecksburg, Pennsylvania, it was always wondered if old Hans Kammler was in that one, and he came out of there, or one of the other 2 scientists. And then the 2 that showed up at or around Stevensville, Texas. It's not known if they crashed, or if they just blinked out and went to another time in our reality. But it's interesting because I heard that Leroy took pictures of it, or a video of it, and I also heard that what he did is he gave the video. I kid you not, I would have made a copy of it right away, But Leroy gives it to a newspaper, who gives it to Linda Moulton Howe. And if you know Linda Moulton Howe, she's a pretty good researcher, She's but at the same time she's a little wacko. But she supposedly had a copy of it, and there was a fresh copy given to her from the newspaper because they wanted her to examine it. Well, anyway, I wrote to her, and I said, dear Linda, I understand that you received a video of what happened in Stevensville, and that there was two lights that had 2 orbs in them, or 1 in each. And I got a letter back from her. There was no video. And I wrote back to her and says, that's funny because the newspaper person said that she gave it to you. And I got a letter back saying, well, it wasn't grainy. It wasn't very good quality and everything. And I said, well, I wrote back and said, in either case, can I have a copy of it? I'd like to look at it. And I got this letter back from her, your typical 2020, in the 2020s or 2010 vernacular where, why are you being mean to me? Why are you treating me like this? And I'm like what? I only asked you for. So I wrote back and I said, well, what the case? You're obviously going to be difficult about this, and if that's the case, just keep it. It's it'll show up sometime or another, and I'll get to look at it. And I never heard back from her. But it's funny how with these liberals, when you present the facts before them, all of a sudden it's like, oh, you're being mean to me, or you're a racist, or you're a misogynist, or whatever. That's always their out. It doesn't work with me. Sorry, it doesn't work with me. I know I'm not a racist. I know I'm not a misogynist. I know that I'm not anything that they would accuse me of. So go ahead and accuse away. I don't care. Anyway, folks, so here you have it. You had this man that I don't know how he got his information, Tesla. It's rumored that he got it in dreams, and others say that he got it in visions, all these things. But if he's doing it in his head, then he must have had to think about it. So I don't know if it's necessarily a vision or if he just thought about it and worked with it. So anyway, I get these letters from time to time where it's somebody that's watching this show, they write to me. But anyway, so there you have it. But the thing is that it is what it is. Yeah, he had a lot of things that would have made life better, but they didn't happen. You can't cry over spilled milk, so let's just move on. And in this reality that we have, that rich and powerful people are going to buy stuff and that could eventually put them out of business. You hear about all things like that. Some guy invents a car engine or that can get 150 miles a gallon, or it always has to do something with oil but energy for sure. And it's a tight market and people control it and they're not going to give it up. And so you can't fault Tesla because he didn't give it to them, he didn't sell it to them, and they took it after he passed on. So, but that John Trump got it, and again that he might have used it for the purposes of propelling his son into the political realm, and that he wins everything that he ever touches. So, anyway, time's short, and we're getting ready for Yeshua to come back, and just knowing these things that how the Matrix works, how people in the Matrix behave, and just goes to cement the fact that humans are inherently evil. Yes, we do have good sides. Most of us have good sides to us, but there are those out there that are just totally evil and bent on destruction and on enslavement of the rest of us. Yes, they're rich and they make a lot of money, and they're able to dole that money out and give it to those who invent these things, or basically telling them, hey, give that to me, I'll pay you $2 million for it, or you're dead. It's, who wouldn't choose the $2 million? But anyway, folks, I got to get going. Just remember, Yahweh's in control. Yahweh will win in the end. And although we may lose a battle or two, we win the war. We've read to the end of the book, and that's what happens. So with that having been said, be of good cheer, be of good courage, and fear not, for your redemption draweth nigh. May Yahweh bless you and keep you. May he make his face to shine upon you and be gracious unto you. May he watch your going out and your coming in, your rising up and your lying down. May he grant you the peace that passes all understanding, and may he just bless your socks off this weekend. And may he just allow you to go out and have a restful time this weekend, and And then store up your energy because next week might be pretty busy. And may he just grant you some things that you've always wanted in your life but never gotten, but only if it's according to his will and his purpose. In the mighty name of Yeshua HaMashiach, our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Okay, folks, have a good weekend. Go out and do something fun, okay? We've only got one more week in July, and then we have August and September, and then things start cooling down. So get out and have fun while you can. Okay, I'm going to get out of here. Okay, folks, take care. God bless, and I'll see you next Tuesday. Bye.